For 20 long years, a soldier named Marcus carried a stone in his pocket. Nobody understood why. To the villagers, Marcus was like a shadow, quiet, disciplined, and always alone. He lived in a small cabin on the edge of town, far from noise, far from laughter, far from anything that reminded him of the life he once had. Marcus had served in the army when he was young. He was brave, loyal, and always the first to step forward when danger appeared. But one battlefield morning changed everything. During a violent attack, Marcus made a choice, a split-second decision. He ran toward a wounded soldier, but he couldn't save him, and the soldier, his best friend, Aaron, died in his arms. As Marcus knelt in the mud, rain pouring on both of them, his eyes fell on a small stone Aaron always kept in his coat. "Luck," Aaron used to say. "If anything happens, keep this for me, and don't let me down." Marcus took the stone that day, and he never put it down. He left the army soon after, because every time he held the stone, guilt rose like smoke in his lungs. He blamed himself. For 20 years, he carried that stone faithfully, silently, painfully. People thought Marcus was strange. They whispered, "Why does he limp? Why does he walk like he's carrying a mountain?" But they never understood that the weight wasn't the stone. It was his memory. Marcus became a blacksmith in the village, working from sunrise until deep night, hammering metal the way some people hammer their emotions hard and without pause. But every morning when he woke, the first thing he checked was the stone in his pocket. Sometimes he would press it tightly until his hands shook. Sometimes he would stare at it and whisper, "I'm sorry, I should have done more." 20 years of this. 20 years of guilt. 20 years of a burden no one else could see. One stormy evening, as Marcus closed his shop, a young boy walked in. His name was Eli. Curious, fearless, full of questions, everything Marcus wasn't. "Sir," Eli said, wiping raindrops from his hair, "you always look so sad. My dad says sadness makes you strong, but not if you hold it too long." Marcus froze. No adult had dared to speak to him like that in 20 years. But this child did. "What do you want, kid?" Marcus asked, gruffly. "I want to learn how to be strong," Eli replied. "But real strong, inside." Marcus tried to ignore him, but Eli sat on a wooden stool, swinging his legs. "That thing you keep in your pocket?" Eli said softly. "What is it?" Every muscle in Marcus's body tensed. Adults avoided the question. Most kids didn't notice. But Eli saw everything. "It's a stone," Marcus said flatly. "A special stone?" Eli asked. Marcus turned away. "Go home, boy." But Eli didn't move. Instead, he leaned forward, his voice barely a whisper. "Is it for remembering someone?" The question hung in the air, heavier than the storm outside. Marcus's shoulders slumped. He looked at the boy, at his bright, honest eyes, and for the first time in 2 decades, he didn't turn away from the pain. He slowly pulled the stone from his pocket. It was smooth, dark, and worn down from years of his touch. "It was for my friend," Marcus said, his voice cracking. "I promised I wouldn't let him down." Ela looked from the stone to Marcus's face. "He wouldn't want you to be sad forever," the boy said simply. "Maybe letting him down is carrying the sadness instead of the memory." Eli's words hit Marcus harder than any hammer blow. He looked down at the stone, then back at the boy. He saw not a child, but a mirror reflecting a truth he'd been avoiding. The promise wasn't to carry the guilt, but to honor the friendship. Marcus smiled, a real, gentle smile that had been buried for 20 years. "Maybe you're right, kid." He placed the stone on his workbench, where the morning light would hit it. It wasn't a burden anymore. It was just a memory. He started to teach Eli how to forge steel, and in the sound of the hammer hitting the anvil, there was no longer just pain, but the sound of something new being built. Marcus was still a quiet man, but he wasn't alone anymore, and the weight in his pocket was finally gone. I simply sighed. My dad carried sadness until it ruined him. He always wished someone told him to put it down earlier. Tuts and Tenza. It pierced through 20 years of silence. Against all expectations, Marcus spoke. His voice, unused to vulnerability, was barely a whisper. "It belonged to my friend," he said. "He died. I was supposed to save him." Eli nodded gently, his young eyes holding a wisdom that seemed out of place, as if he understood more pain than a child ever should. "My dad always says, we can't change the past, only what we carry from it." Marcus felt something break inside him, not a violent shatter, but a quiet crack, a subtle shift in the tectonic plates of his grief. For the first time in 2 decades, he allowed someone to see the immense weight he'd been dragging behind him, the burden that had defined his every step. He looked at the boy, this small messenger of hope, and asked the question that had been buried alive in his heart. "What would you do?" Marcus asked quietly. "If you were me?" Eli stood up, walked over, and placed his tiny hand over the soldier's breast pocket, right where the stone rested against his heart. "I'd put it down," he said, his voice soft but sure. "Even heroes can get tired." Heroes, that word. It hadn't been aimed at him in decades. It echoed in the hollow spaces of his memory, a ghost of a younger self he thought was long gone. The boy left after that, but his words lingered in the quiet night. Marcus didn't sleep. He sat by the fire, the orange light dancing across his weathered face. He pulled out the stone, holding it in his palm, staring at it as if seeing it for the very first time. He had always seen it as an emblem of his failure, a monument to his guilt. But now, in the flickering light, he started to see something else. Not guilt, but memory. He finally asked himself the question he had avoided for 20 long, agonizing years. Did Aaron want me to carry the stone? Or the lesson? The next sunrise was different. It felt warmer, brighter, or maybe, just maybe, Marcus was finally noticing it for the first time in years. He walked to the top of the tallest hill in the village, a place where the world felt wide enough to hold all the things he'd carried for so long. The wind was crisp, the air clean. He reached into his pocket and pulled out the stone. For the first time, it felt small. Not heavy. Not painful. Just a stone. He remembered Aaron's voice, a memory from a lifetime ago, just before the chaos erupted. "If anything happens, don't let me down." Marcus had spent half his life believing he had failed that promise. But standing there on that hill, with the wind brushing against his face, a new understanding washed over him. He didn't fail. He lived, and maybe living, truly living, was the promise all along. He closed his eyes, the morning sun on his eyelids. "I won't carry you as pain anymore," he whispered to the memory of his friend. "I'll carry you as strength." Then, with steady hands, Marcus placed the stone on the grass. He didn't throw it. He didn't bury it. He just laid it down gently, as if returning a borrowed memory to the earth. And when he stood up, he felt 15 pounds lighter. His shoulders, perpetually slumped under an invisible weight, rose. His breath, so often shallow and tight, came easier. His chest loosened, as if a lock he didn't even know was there had finally been opened. That same day Marcus went to find Eli. The boy looked up at him with those wide, knowing eyes. "Did ye?" "Do it." Marcus smiled. A real smile. The kind that reached his eyes. The kind he hadn't felt since he was a young soldier full of hope. "Yes," he said, "and you were right. Even heroes can get tired in that moment." Eli ran and hugged him, and for the first time, Marcus didn't pull away. He embraced the warmth, the connection he had denied himself for so long. Word spread quickly across the village. The quiet soldier, the man who always seemed to be somewhere else, had changed. Marcus began helping more, his hands now building instead of just holding on. He laughed more, the sound rusty at first, but growing stronger each day. He taught the young boys how to forge metal, shaping raw iron into useful tools. He taught the old men how to forgive themselves, sharing the wisdom he had so painfully earned. Little by little, the soldier who carried a stone became the man who carried wisdom. And every time Eli asked him what happened that day on the hill, Marcus would look at him with that newfound light in his eyes and say the same thing. Letting go doesn't erase the past. It just frees you to walk into the future without dragging it behind you. The heaviest things in life are never the ones we hold in our hands. They're the ones we hold in our hearts. And sometimes, The bravest thing we can possibly do is finally find the courage to put them down. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider sharing it.